The sun was setting when the sound of the front door crashing open jolted me from my reading nook. Before I could even register the intrusion, a woman, wild-eyed and breathing heavily, burst into my living room. She flung a lacy crimson bra right at my face. It landed with a soft, embarrassing plop against my cheek. "Recognize this?" she spat out, her voice thick with fury. "Give it to the who slept with my husband." Stunned, I peeled the garment off my face, holding it by a delicate strap. "Excuse me, what are you talking about?" I managed, my heart thumping against my ribs. "Don't play dumb with me," she screamed, taking a menacing step closer, her fists clenched. "This bra belongs to the who's ruining my life." I examined the bra more closely. Indeed, there it was, an embroidered heart on the tag, Millie's unique signature. My breath hitched. This had to be some mistake. Millie, my wife of 7 years, was at her aerobics class. She couldn't possibly be involved in this mess. "This has to be a misunderstanding," I said, my voice steady despite the chaos. "My wife, your wife, is a cheat," the woman interrupted, tears brimming in her eyes. "I caught her with my husband." I tried to process her words. It didn't make any sense. Millie was devoted and loving. "Maybe someone stole it from the locker room," I suggested, grasping for any explanation other than betrayal. The woman scoffed, digging into her purse. She pulled out a smartphone, swiped vigorously, and thrust the screen in my direction. "If you don't believe me, take a look." The photos displayed on the screen made my world spin. There was Millie, unmistakably her, in less than her usual gym attire, and more compromising positions with some faceless man. My stomach churned. Denial gave way to a cold, sinking reality. As the woman stormed out, leaving the door ajar and the night air streaming in, the quiet of my home morphed into a haunting silence. My hands trembled, holding the incriminating phone. This was real. Millie had cheated. Images burned into my memory, fueling a rising tide of anger and hurt. I had to confront her, but part of me dreaded the confirmation of this unbearable truth. Yet, revenge whispered in the recesses of my mind, a dark, twisting path that seemed both terrifying and inevitable. "Now she's destroyed," I whispered to the empty room, a plan slowly forming in my thoughts. As the last light of day faded, I knew one thing for certain. Nothing would ever be the same again. The clock ticked past 9 as I paced the living room, waiting for Millie to return. Each minute stretched taut with the weight of the revelation still glowing dimly on her phone. My mind raced through scenarios of confrontation, each more chaotic than the last. Finally, the sound of keys jingled at the door, and Millie stepped in, flushed from her workout, still in her vibrant gym attire, unaware of the storm brewing inside me. "Hey, love, why are you up so late?" She smiled, setting her gym bag down, but her smile faltered at the sight of my grim expression. "We need to talk," I said, my voice low, motioning to the living room. Her brows knitted in concern as she followed me. "What's wrong?" Without a word, I handed her the phone. As she scrolled through the images, her face drained of color, her usual poise crumbling. "Millie, how could you?" My voice broke, the hurt unmistakable. "It's not what it looks like, I swear." Her voice was desperate, pleading. "I can explain." "Explain?" I scoffed. "How do you explain this?" Before she could respond, the doorbell rang, slicing through the tense air. Reluctantly, I strode to the door and swung it open to reveal a somber-looking man in his mid-30s, his eyes weary. "Are you the husband of Millie?" he asked, his voice heavy. "Yes, I am," I replied, puzzled. "Who are you?" "My name is Jack. I think we have a lot to talk about. Can I come in?" I nodded, leading him into the living room where Millie stood, her face a mask of fear and confusion. Jack's gaze shifted between us, his demeanor serious. "Millie, you know why I'm here." "It's about the photos," Jack began, turning his phone to show a similar string of images. Only this time, it was his wife in compromising positions. "What is going on?" I demanded, my frustration peaking. Jack sighed. "I believe someone is setting our spouses up. These photos, they were manipulated. I've been tracking the IP address from which these images were sent. It's all part of a larger scheme." Millie grabbed her chest, a mix of relief and new fear dawning on her face. "I knew it. I was at the gym, but I left early because someone stole my bra from my locker. I thought it was just a mix-up. But why? Why do this? I'm not sure yet, Jack admitted, but I think it's related to a group that's been manipulating people like us for gains, blackmail, divorce settlements, ruining reputations. We need to work together on this, Millie interjected, her resolve hardening. We can't let them destroy our lives. As we sat down, forming an unlikely alliance, the night deepened around us. Our conversation turned from accusations to planning, from betrayal to teamwork. With every detail Jack and Millie discussed, the web of deceit grew, entangling not just our lives, but potentially many others. The chapter closed with us huddled around the kitchen table, maps and laptops open, a digital war room against an unseen enemy. The fight to clear our names and uncover the truth had just begun. The kitchen clock struck midnight as our makeshift command center buzzed with the hum of laptops and the scribble of notes. Millie, Jack, and I were deep into our investigation. Our initial shock now morphed into a steely resolve. I've managed to trace the IP address to a location across town, Jack announced, his fingers flying over his keyboard. It's an office building, mostly rented out for tech startups. Millie leaned over, pointing at the screen. Could be a front for whoever's doing this. We should check it out, agreed, I said. But we should be careful. If they're as shady as they seem, they might be watching their backs. We decided on a plan to visit the building the next day, hoping to gather more information or possibly catch someone in the act. As we prepared, I couldn't help but feel the adrenaline mix with the gnawing anxiety. The thought of facing the people who tried to ruin our lives was daunting. The next morning greeted us with a gray, overcast sky, mirroring the uncertainty of our mission. We drove in Jack's car, parking a block away from the building to avoid any immediate suspicion. As we approached, the nondescript nature of the building did nothing to ease our nerves. This is it, Jack whispered, nodding towards a faded sign above the door. Let's split up. Millie, you and I can go inside and ask around casually, see if anyone seems off, or if we can spot any familiar faces. What about me? I asked, feeling a twinge of protectiveness. You're good with tech. Stay here and try to hack into their Wi-Fi network. See if you can intercept anything useful, Jack suggested, handing me a small device. Use this. It's a Wi-Fi range extender with a sniffer. It should help you get into their network from out here. I nodded, setting up the device as Millie and Jack headed inside. The minutes dragged as I scanned for wireless signals, finally breaking into their poorly secured network. I started sifting through email headers and document files, looking for any mention of the photos or our names. Suddenly, my laptop screen flashed with a new email titled, Phase 2 Plans. I quickly opened it, finding a detailed discussion about manipulating another set of unsuspecting victims, complete with photos and personal information. There was no direct mention of us, but the pattern was unmistakable. I copied the files onto a USB drive just as Jack called. We found something, he said, his voice tense. Meet us at the car. I packed up and headed towards them, spotting Millie and Jack talking animatedly by the car. As I approached, I noticed the worry in their eyes. We talked to a receptionist, Millie explained. She said there's been a lot of strange activity lately, people coming and going at odd hours. She seemed scared, and Jack added, she mentioned a man who matched the description of the person Millie saw at the gym the day her bra was stolen. This just keeps getting deeper, I muttered, showing them the USB drive. Look at this. I found plans for more setups like ours. We need to go to the police, Millie said decisively. With this evidence, they have to listen. But first, Jack suggested, let's see if we can find out more about this man. If we can connect him directly to the threats, it'll strengthen our case. Agreeing, we headed back to our place, our minds racing with the implications of our findings. The day's discoveries had bound us together, not just by shore. Let's continue from where we left off. Our minds raced with the implications of our findings as we sat down to pore over the information. We realized that our journey into the heart of this conspiracy was just beginning. The morning sun filtered through the blinds as Jack, Millie, and I huddled around our kitchen table, strewn with documents and digital devices. The atmosphere was tense, charged with anticipation and dread. as we pieced together the last fragments of our investigation. "I can't believe we're this close," Millie whispered, her eyes scanning the latest set of documents we retrieved through our hacking efforts. Jack adjusted his glasses, focusing on the screen. "This goes deeper than we thought. Look at this email chain. I think we found the mastermind." My heart raced as I leaned over to see the emails detailing transactions and blackmail plans, all leading back to a single surprising name: Gregory Haynes, a well-known local business magnate revered for his philanthropy. The discovery was a bitter shock. Gregory's public persona was a stark contrast to the man unveiled in these secret communications. "Why would someone like him do this?" I murmured, disbelief clouding my thoughts. "Power, control, money. It's always the same," Jack said grimly. "He's using his resources to manipulate lives for entertainment, betting on outcomes of relationships and lives. We need to expose him," Millie declared, her voice firm. "No more playing around. We take this to the press and the police today." Armed with our evidence, we prepared a detailed dossier. Just as we were about to leave, my phone rang. The caller ID flashed an unknown number, but I answered, my pulse quickening. "Hello?" asked cautiously. "Is this Tom?" A cautious, unfamiliar voice asked. "Yes. Who's this?" "This is Gregory Haynes. I believe you have something of mine," he said, his voice chillingly calm. A cold sweat broke out on my forehead. "What are you talking about? The information you've stolen from my network?" "Let's not pretend, Tom," he continued smoothly. "I know what you and your little group have been up to. How did you?" I started, but he cut me off. "I propose a meeting, Tom. Just you and me. Let's settle this like gentlemen. No need to ruin lives unnecessarily." I glanced at Jack and Millie, signaling to put the call on speaker. We silently agreed on a strategy. "Where and when?" I asked. "An hour from now. The park by the river." "Come alone," he dictated. We drove to the location, a public space, but I walked to the designated meeting spot alone, my heart pounding in my chest. Gregory was already there, seated on a bench, his demeanor casual, but his eyes sharp. "Tom, you seem like a reasonable man," Gregory began, standing to greet me. "Why not join me? With your skills, you could be very valuable. Forget all this unpleasantness." I shook my head, my decision clear. "I'm not here to join you, Gregory. I'm here to stop you." As we spoke, police cars quietly approached the park, surrounding us unnoticed. Gregory's face fell as he realized the trap. "You recorded everything," he guessed, his voice laced with defeat. "Every word," I confirmed. Just as he started to protest, the police approached, handcuffing him. Gregory turned to me, his expression unreadable. "Well played, Tom," he said quietly. "I underestimated you." As the police led him away, a weight lifted from my shoulders. Jack and Millie joined me, relief and victory reflected in their smiles. "We did it," Millie said, hugging me tightly. "It's over," Jack added. But as we turned to leave, a police officer approached us. "There's someone here who wants to speak to you," he said, gesturing toward a figure approaching from across the park. Our astonishment, it was the receptionist from the office building, the one who seemed scared. Her eyes were bright with unshed tears. "I wanted to thank you," she said, her voice trembling. Gregory was a monster to all of us working for him. I was too afraid to say anything. Her gratitude hit hard, a poignant reminder of the real impact of our actions. As we talked, I realized the depth of the conspiracy we'd unraveled, and how close we'd come to becoming its victims. The story closed on a reflective note, with us understanding that the real victory wasn't just the takedown of a criminal. It was the lives we'd potentially saved and the justice we'd restored.